So today, if in case you guys didn't know, at the time of streaming this at least, it's Free RPG Day. So I had something else kind of scheduled for the stream today, but figured I was going there anyway, so we'll just jump in and kind of talk about Free RPG Day a little bit. Some of the things I went looking for, some of the things that I grabbed, some of the things that were on offer, kind of a little bit about RPG Day in general, and what it kind of means for the industry and for the hobbyists and our friendly local game stores. So let's go ahead and hop in. So if you don't know what Free RPG Day is, it's been going on. I don't know how long Free RPG Day has been going on. A while. It's been going on for a while. I know that. I don't even remember when the first one I went to was. Maybe like 2016 or something like that. 2017, something like that. That might have been the first one. No, I certainly went to one before that. Doesn't matter. It's been around for a while, but it's not super well known, especially I feel like for people who are sort of newer into the hobby. It doesn't get a lot of attention. Doesn't have a high awareness sort of in the hobby. I feel like, even though major players in the hobby, including sort of Hasbro, Pathfinder, and Paizo, all the sort of even Dragon's Bane stuff, like the large sort of people, Call of Cthulhu, the large publishers and the large, most well-known RPGs tend to put stuff in for it, but we don't do a very good job of promoting it for the most part. And that kind of, we'll talk about a little bit how it's set up. So the way that it's set up is that there are obviously publishers who want to include things and sort of freebies that to get people excited about upcoming products, or usually it's like quick start rules or one shots or some sort of previews. Sometimes little supplements, sometimes it's physical supplements, sometimes it's just like roll tables, stuff like that. All this sort of stuff that publishers put out so that people have a very low bar of entry of learning about their system and maybe going on to buy their products. So an idea for them to sort of like get an idea where there's no sort of price barrier entry, and usually they come in really nice, sort of slick, full color, not always full color, sometimes it's black and white, printed materials that people have the ability to check out and, gets them hyped about whatever the game system is and whatever's coming out. So that's sort of the publisher side. And then there's sort of the retailer side, our friendly local game stores. And so they have to buy packages, and those get sent to the game store. And there's different tiers of packages and how much depends on like what comes in their box. And so everything that's kind of shows up on the website might not actually be what shows up at the friendly local game store, whatever your friendly FLGS is, or you might not know the volume because they have to kind of guess about how many people are going to show up. Now, we were lucky this year because there was a line waiting outside my FLGS, or one of my FLGSs, that I went to with a, sort of my +1 who was there to help me grab some stuff as well, to take a look at, because I knew I was going to come on and bring some of this, and then I'm going to share some with my friends that didn't get an ability to kind of go this year. So, wanted to do that and make sure, get an idea so I can kind of showcase some of it for you guys as well. So did that, but there was a line outside, which is very rare, and I know that they were taking the FLGS was taking some videos and photos of things because they were surprised that there was a line outside as well. And they didn't have everything, and they didn't have a ton of volume, but I felt like I got a good selection of the things I wanted. I did beforehand. I kind of went through everything that was on the website and kind of just made myself like a little like things I want the most to things I kind of want the least, and then split it up between sort of printed goods and then sort of physical goods. And that'll probably make more sense once we get into it. But I do want to just sort of jump into it. So that's sort of the setup for it. So it's kind of hard to get retailers into it because you're getting retailers to pay the Free RPG Day people money to get boxes of free stuff to give away to customers. Free RPG Day is very much like sort of Free Comic Book Day, except I don't feel like it has as much sort of publisher backing on it. So the publishers have a very specific thing that they're trying to do, and that's not specifically sort of help the retail environment succeed. They don't care that much about the retailers, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like. So, the retailers sort of have to pay to get the stuff in, and they're paying to basically get stuff shipped to them and it's going to increase their foot traffic probably to the store. It depends on the store. Stores as well are usually not very good about telling people that free RPG day is coming up or to get people excited about it to try to get more foot traffic in. But so they buy that, and you're basically paying to try to get foot traffic in by giving people free stuff. But there's a large section of people who just come in, grab the free stuff, turn around, and walk out. And then there's no sort of unifying theme about like how many things you can take. Do you need a purchase to get some extra things? Like every game store's rules are kind of different around it. Sometimes it's just a mad grab, mad rush to grab stuff. Other times it's like, oh, you can get 1, 2, or 3 things, and then if you buy something from the store of certain value, will allow you to pick up something extra, or things like that. Or sometimes I've even seen game stores where they sort of time break things, where they'll be like, we're going to set out 3 or 4 items during this hour, and then the next hour we're going to add a few more, and the next hour we're going to add a few more to kind of make it more of an all day kind of event. Kind of keep people coming in and out and sticking around in the store, because maybe you guys don't know this, but as far as retail goes, the more sort of foot traffic you have, the longer you can keep people in a store, the more likely they are to make a purchase. And that's sort of how retail works. That's why it's the same reason like malls have things like food courts and stuff like that. We know that the longer you stick around in a store, the more likely you are to buy something. That's sort of how it works in the retail aspects. But let's go ahead and hop over to the website. I can show you guys the website real fast if you've never been to it before. It's just freerpgday.com. So let me go ahead and let's go to here. I don't have it previously set up, so let me grab it. We want to look at this guy right here. All right, here's our free RPG day. So yeah, it's today, June 22nd, 2024. So retailers, publishers, gamers, the blah blah blah. Just kind of tells you a little bit about it. Get some exclusive stuff, and then we've got our publishing partner. So this gives you an idea of all the stuff that's coming out. So I kind of went through this, and I kind of made a list for myself about like, hey, these are the things that I think I'm kind of interested in getting. These are the things that maybe I'm not super interested in getting. So I figured I'd just kind of go down my list from the things that I was most interested in to least interested, and we'll take a look at that. And in addition to that, I'll kind of talk about if I have the thing, I'll show it off. If not, we'll just kind of take a look at it on here. One of the good things about Free RPG Day is that most of the stuff is available in PDF form for free as a download later on. So if you don't get something, like one of the top things I wanted, I didn't get, and I've signed up to get sort of the download. I think it comes out on like July 1st or something. They've got like a week break on it, and then they're gonna allow it for download. So then I'll get the download of it, but I didn't get it. The thing that I was looking for the most, I didn't quite get. So let's just jump into that. So that is now I didn't write down who the publishers were for everything. I don't think it's 1985. No, I am trying to remember what that. Yes. All right. So it was Crimson Herald, Samurai Rust. This is the one thing that I was looking forward to the most. I unfortunately did not get my hands on it, and that is Sink Treasures of the Deep Grotto. And so it's basically a pirate one-shot with some modular dungeon preview. That's sort of the big sort of pull for it, and that's for 5th edition D&D. So that's it. That's the thing I was most interested in. One of them because right now I'm currently playing in a nautical themed D&D 5e game, so I thought this would be a cool thing to grab, and then I could share it with our DM if I wanted to see if the adventure looked like it was maybe cool, and then not read too far into it, kind of give it over to him. But unfortunately, I didn't get my hands on it. But I'll have the PDF download in the near future, so that's the one that's coming out on July 1st, I think. So that's going to be interesting. I was really interested in sort of the modular dungeon aspect of it, and it's got a very cool sort of three-eyed goat grotto thing going on, but it looks very interesting. So I have the one campaign where we have a nautical theme, and another campaign it looks like we're about to go do like a river trip. So I was like, oh well, I definitely got like water and D&D on my mind, and I find it actually really difficult to find adventures or things like that are tied to water travel, whether that's rivers or sea coastal stuff that's not explicitly pirates themed. It's actually kind of difficult to find. So anytime that I find something like that, maybe I can tweak it a little bit so it's not super piratey. Because it's very easy to find pirate stuff, but it's not as easy to find not pirate nautical stuff. Whether that's just, chasing down krakens and dragon turtles or Swaggin or whatever. Kutoa. But this was the number one thing. I didn't see any physical issues of it when I got in there. Now, there were people in front of me in line, so maybe they grabbed them, maybe there weren't very many, or maybe it was in a higher tier. I don't know. I don't know how it was broken down for retailers this year. But I did not get that one, and that was one of the ones I looked for, and it's got this really cool cover art that was really interesting in getting. It looks very cool. But unfortunately, I did not getting that. I did not get that. So that was number one on my list. The second one on my list was the Shining Shrine, which it's not that. Yeah, okay, there it is. So this threw me off at first because it's got the wrong title on it. That's another bad thing about sort of the Free RPG Day website, is they typically don't have super great descriptions of what the things actually are. So it tells you Heliana's Guide to Monster Hunting, but that's actually the pay-for book. This is like a little supplement from it. And I do have it. Here it is. So I was able to pick up this one. This one's pretty cool. I haven't looked through these pretty much at all. Just basically just a quick sort of flip through when I got back before I started streaming, because we're already a little bit behind schedule. But it looks pretty fun. It's a one-shot, 6 hours to run in entirety, 2 hours of clue gathering, tracking, and preparation, 4 hours of 3-wave boss battle. Very interesting. And then it also gives you an option to kind of trim it down for a 90-minute runtime if you want to do something, an in-store thing, specifically for Free RPG Day. They weren't running anything today, so in the store that I know of, so at least not that I see that they were running. But yeah, I mean, it's a cool little thing. That's just sort of that's the thing that really interested me, is it's got this extra stuff it's sort of like a monster hunting wilderness exploration sort of supplement with a little one-shot attached to it, and I'm always looking for stuff to kind of make that wilderness adventure aspect a little bit more present, because I certainly in D&D 5e and in other games, but especially in 5e, we don't get much meat when it comes to exploration, that exploration tier. And so something like this, where it's a cool thing that's about monster hunting and picking up animal parts and crafting and cooking, it focuses on tracking, harvesting, crafting, and cooking monsters, along with, I guess, just normal beasts, which we, at least in D&D 5e, we don't make any distinction between beasts and monsters, right? Because beasts also fall into the monster category because they're a type of monster. And I don't have any place to set this, so I'll just set it on the floor, I guess. You can tell I'm very rushed. I didn't really do a lot of prep for this one, but that's all right. We're just gonna keep going on. So Shining Shrine was the number 2 thing I was looking for, and I was able to grab it, which is good. I think I got the next to last one. Dragonbane. So Dragonbane is Free League Press for sure. The Sinking Tower, which is in a tournament arc, and I did get that one as well. Here it is. Trying not to knock my entire stack of stuff over while I grab it. So that's this one. So it is an official tournament adventure, which is a very interesting thing. Tournament adventures are a very sort of old school D&D thing, where the people would run at conventions, where you have a bunch of people come together to all run through the same sort of D&D adventure, trying to get, basically, they're trying to get the highest score out of it by collecting the most loot and killing the most monsters and there are a number of, usually each one has a very specific list of objectives and things they're trying to do, as well as some sort of like supplementary things like, monsters killed, loot gathered, that sort of stuff. So this is, of course, it's a one-shot. It's for the Dragonbane system out of Free League, and it has those quick start rules for the Dragonbane. So Dragonbane, I actually don't know too much about. I don't know a ton about Dragonbane. I've only seen a little bit of it, and I don't want to be too influenced by sort of other people's opinion about Dragonbane, because I know looking at it, there are some things that I don't just on the surface love about Dragonbane, mainly the need to also have decks of cards and miniatures and dice. It seems it has a lot of what I often see in sort of kickstarted like board games. They talk about sort of that uh, chit bloat sometimes is what they kind of they have a couple different terms for it. The idea is that something gets kickstarted like a board game, and then there's all these sort of like unlocked stuff, and it's just adding more stuff to the game, just sort of more tactile stuff that really doesn't make the game better. It just kind of makes it more tactile. It's a lot of frills, and the more frills you put onto meat, the less impressive the meat kind of looks to me. So, also, it's like now I have to, in addition to carrying around my books and my mat and my miniatures and my character sheet and my dice, now I also have to carry around some card decks as well. And I don't super love that. It was like, if I'm gonna do, and they've got a good shot of it, like on the back of like sort of everything that kind of comes with Dragonbane. So you've got your big books, your big map, your rule stuff over here, the card decks, the dice, miniatures, and monster stuff. And so you have all that stuff, and it all looks very familiar. It's got a very familiar art style to it. Nothing that really stands out too much as far as the art style is concerned to me. It's not bad. It just looks very much like other fantasy stuff. Doesn't really, to me, have a very distinct style too much from me. It's a little sort of like Pathfinder style, mix a little bit more cartoonish storyteller or fairy tale-ish kind of art to it style. So it's fine, but that is a thing that kind of I think has held me a little bit back from Dragonbane so far. Then nobody I play with has seemed particularly interested in going out of their way to try it. So that's neither here or there. That's just personal preference. But I am interested to read through the stuff. This is what I really love about Free RPG Day. Number one, this is a meaty thing. There's a bunch of pages in here. I don't think they're numbered. We've got some numbers, so it's got 40 something pages in it. It's glossy. It's very nice print job on it. Everything's very high quality in here. It's got maps. So everything in here is really good, but this is what I really like about Free RPG Day, is it gives me the ability to, gives me quick start rules and an adventure in it, which I really like. Which means, like, even if I look at the quick start rules and I decide the system's not for me, I still have an adventure that I can just port over to a different system. And that's usually not too difficult, rather than coming up with my own adventure off the dome. So that's always really nice. I really appreciate that. So that's Dragonbane. I don't know too much about the Sinking Tower. I do know that it's a little bit of a weird module because it's a competition module. It's a judges module. So there is a very strict sort of timed element to it, and if you don't make it through, then the tower sinks back into the water, I believe. So it is interesting. Does have a very narrow sort of window of play for it. So the next one I wanted was Not a Drop to Drink. Not a Drop to Drink. Nope. We'll find it. We'll find it. Where was Not a Drop? It's not this one, is it? Oh, it is. Okay, so this is from Loki Battle Maps. I did get this one as well. This was actually the very first one I picked up because the first one I came across that was on my list. So, I assume it's Loki, but it could be Loke. I don't actually know how to pronounce it. Battle mats. So they make a lot of battle mats. They have the books, which I really like. I've gotten for a DM friend of mine for, I think Christmas is what I got it for him. And it's a spiral bound book of battle mats. It's really super useful. You just grab, so that's sort of their backgrounds. They're sort of the battle mats background. But this should have some battle mats in it. So here's one. As well as some just tokens you can cut out if you want to. And cutouts for the character sheets. Again, it kind of comes with character sheets as well. This is a 5e compatible one, so if you're running 5e, you don't have to do any of that, but it does come with very nice art, very nice maps. Very quick start to tell you a little bit about 5e. The adventure hook, that's what I'm looking for. This adventure can take place on a job for a local farmer, message on a board, or chance encounter with a dry well. So it's that classic sort of dry well. It's very sort of old school dungeon-esque where you find a dry well and kind of go down into it. Yeah, so here's sort of the dungeon map for Wellspring. So yeah, I mean, it's straightforward D&D 5e adventure. It's got pre-generated characters to use. Seems like a lot of fun. I'll know a little bit more about it. Like I said, I haven't really looked through these previously. There's our little DM's map that has all the encounters mapped out on it. Little cave system at the bottom of a well. Very cool. And again, very large form factor, very nice. You can set it's this large form factor, so you can actually use these maps. You can actually just set it out flat and use the tokens on top of it with this gridded map. Very cool. And also, just their products are really good. So if you're the sort of person who runs a lot of sort of tabletop games, action RPGs, whether that's Pathfinder or they also do sci-fi stuff, and modern stuff. So even if you do something that's more like Werewolf or Starfinder or some other thing that they have, I can highly recommend their products. They're very good. What did I have after that? So that was Not a Drop to Drink. It's one shot for 5e, very straightforward. Right, not published by Wizards of the Coast, so if you're gonna need to know a little bit about 5e before you get in there. But considering it's the most popular RPG right now, that's probably not a problem for most people. Shadows of Esterin, which was the next one I got, and I definitely have this one. You know, it'll probably be easier if I find the thing first, and that will tell me who published it. That would be smart. So let's do that. I don't have Shadows of Esterin. Here we go. And I feel like I have something about Shadows of Esterin before. I might have a different quick start, maybe from an old free RPG day, actually. But if you are familiar with Symbaroum or something like that, it's got the same sort of feel. It's very much sort of a dark fantasy. This time, instead of Symbaroum's more Nordic, this one's more Celtic in origin. It's a small distinction, I think, for a lot of people, but it is different. They give you their nice little coastal map of the world that you're going to be set in. And this is for Shadows of Esterin, which is its own system. So you've got that. Got their any award-winning stuff in here. Review stuff. Tells you a little background about the world and what to expect, which is really useful for, especially when you're doing a more sort of nuanced setting that's got sort of that darker Celtic theme to it. Give people an idea. Yeah. Very, very straightforward. What I will say is there's a lot of text in here. There's a lot of stuff to read, which I'm not sure is maybe the most optimal use. Right? We're about halfway through this booklet, and then that's where the scenario starts. So there's a lot of sort of telling you a little bit about the system and also about the world, and sort of kind of just so you know what's going on, and then it kind of goes into the scenario itself. The art's kind of sketchy, kind of dreamish. Fits very well with that sort of mystic lore, legend kind of feel to it. Lots of good stuff in there. But yeah, it's very simple. So if you are used to running something that's more like a Savage Worlds or a Call of Cthulhu or something like that, or a Traveler module or something like that, you're probably gonna like this a lot more, because it does have that sort of feel. Like, the module's not very long. It just kind of gives you ideas of what's going on, and then kind of relies a lot on the Dungeon Master or Game Master or Storyteller, or whatever Esterin calls their specific director of the game, to sort of figure it out. Yeah, I mean, there's not too much to say about this, I don't think. I think I've pretty much covered everything. So if that sounds interesting to you, if you like that sort of Simba Room, dark, uh, grim fairy tale kind of thing, this would be a good one for you. Very interesting. So if you're looking to pick stuff up, that'd be good. Like I said, if you can't get to the free RPG in store to get like one of these, or you don't have an FLGS near you, which is totally understandable. Even the one near me is not super near me. I have to go out of my way to get there. Uh, you can usually download some form of this online. So this is, who's this by? Oh, Studio Dragon. So that's way down here at the bottom. There you go. So they also had Fate Forge, and I don't think I grabbed Fate Forge or even saw it up there. Fate Forge is something that looks interesting, and we'll talk about it here in a little bit. But Shadows of Astron, medieval world, horrific gothic overtones, dark low fantasy setting. So if you like that sort of Witcher kind of feel, this is, I think this is by the same people who do the Witcher RPG, isn't it? Or is that somebody else? I think that's somebody else. But if you like that sort of feeling for a game, this or Simba Room's going to kind of give you those interesting sort of feelings. So very fun. What do we have after in my notes? Mayhem in Okiri Village. So this one I don't think I even saw it in there. Is this guy? Yeah. So Obojima is sort of a new 5e setting that's a little bit more sort of Studio Ghibli, Legend of Zelda-esque. So if you want that sort of feeling, this is what I was looking for. I was interested in picking up this one. This is like, what, number 6 on my list? But I did not see it. I have the understanding that this one, based off of sort of my understanding, specifically of the D&D 5e core audience right now, that this one, especially the newer players that have come into it, something like this is probably way more popular than from some of the older fans like myself, knuckleheads like me, who this can be a little whimsical for someone like me, but I'm still like, oh, I want to give it a fair shake, and Free RPG Day is a great day to do that. So if you're interested in this, definitely go check out this is 1985, right? Yeah, so check out 1985 Games. They're probably going to have a free download for this. And you can get to everybody's website linked in these descriptions from freerpgday.com. So you can definitely go grab them. So unfortunately, I don't have a lot to say about that. I'm interested in learning about the setting a little bit more. About the Obojima setting and see what that's kind of about. But I also feel like it's going to be a little bit more My Neighbor Totoro and a little less Mononoke or Nausicaa. So I feel like it's gonna lean a little bit more on the sort of whimsical, rural Japanese kind of feeling, and a little less on sort of the harder, more like tendency that kind of shows up in some of those older Ghibli films. After that was Return to the Dark Tower, which I do have. This was for mazes, gosh. And I do have that. Who puts this out again? This is 9th level games. This is one of the ones that I did actually probably spend the most amount of time looking at on the way back, because this one comes in a very cool format. It comes in a notepad format. So that's really cool. And actually, as part of it, has you sort of tear out sheets. Because the sheet, let me get one. So, like, this is the DM sheet. So it's got this. But then you flip it over, so you're supposed to tear the sheet out and give it to you. And it gives you, it's basically the DM's character sheet. Which is very cool. And so each of the creatures in here, and I can't remember which of the systems this is for. If this is mazes or Dark Tower. I think this is mazes. You're supposed to be able to run it with either one, I believe. But I think this is technically the mazes one, which is a system that I've been interested in playing some more in. Where basically, so here's one of the characters, it's called the Bog Witch. and you get to roll a d4, and depending on what you roll, kind of depends. Whatever you're trying to accomplish is a number that you're trying to roll. So that's kind of a difficult way to explain it. So you can roll up to 10. 10 is so 1 through 10, but each character has a different die type. So this Bog Witch has a d4, which means that they're much better at doing banner, books, and boots, which is movement kind of stuff. But they're not particularly good at doing blades, fighting, bones, which I think is... I don't know off the top of my head, or reinforce. So depending on your character's die, kind of gives you an idea of sort of how good they are at specific things, like the specific things that they're good at doing. And then the dice explode, I believe, is what I've read. But this very interesting format. This is the one that I probably looked the most at, and thought, oh, this is it's a cool format. Get it framed. It's a very cool format. And way to do things, like they even have a little handout like these keys. That's super cool. And so this is the one that I'm really interested in, and this is the one that I'm thinking of maybe I'm gonna take a closer look at next time I want to do a solo RPG, because this seems like a very simple system to run solo. Even though it may be kind of deadly to run solo, I don't know. And like I said, I think this is the mazes. They have two different... So Dark Tower itself, I believe, is... Return to Dark Tower is its own fancy role-playing game. But so is Mazes. So, because I don't have a big background with either one of those games, I don't know which one of the games is actually being used in the mechanics here. I think it's Mazes, because I think Return to Dark Tower is a larger system, and I think Mazes is the smaller system. But I'm not sure. But this does talk about itself being a zero prep introduction to role playing, and it's written very well. I can't tell you that. Is that very much on the first page? It kind of tells you what's going on. It has different icons. It tells you, hey, when you see this icon, this is what you read. If you have this icon, this is the sort of test you ask for the players, where they roll dice. This is the sort of information that's just for you and not for the players. It's for them to figure out. So it's very, very cool. So this one I'm definitely going to... It's probably... Thus far, like I said, I haven't looked through all of them yet, but thus far this has probably been the favorite thing I've picked up. Even though, compared to everything else we've looked at, it's clearly the lowest production value. Not in a bad way, just like this is a one and done thing. Like, it's got a glue top on it. You're going to start ripping stuff out of here, and then, unfortunately, the one bad thing I can say about it is that the pages aren't numbered. So if I ever want to replay it again, I'll have to put numbers on the pages, because once you start ripping out pages, and this thing's going to fall apart so easily, if I ever want to run it for a different group, I'm going to have to put page numbers on it so I can put them all back in order and then, like, paperclip them together or something. But very cool. I am very interested to run it and or play it and see how it goes. Because I'm very interested in the system, too. It seems super light, super fun. The different dies makes it feel like not everybody can do the same things, which is very cool for a class-based RPG, so I'm very interested in doing more with it. And I'll probably check out Mazes more in general. The next one is Red Tundra. So this is Red Tundra. This is actually a Werewolf the Apocalypse one-shot, basically. And it gives you the basic information, the very basics you need to know. So if you're not familiar with Werewolf, it is in the World of Darkness world of games where you play sort of classic monsters in a lot of ways. So on the back cover we have Vampire, Hunter, Werewolf, which are sort of the three main ones. So Vampire, you play vampires. Werewolf, you play werewolves. Hunter, you play hunters. Hunters being, of course, sort of vaguely weird-touched humans. Humans that are basically aware of monsters existing and have some sort of sensory for it. That is easily the most deadly out of all the systems. I've only played a little bit of Hunter. I've played more Werewolf and Vampire. They're very fun. The only thing that I think most people get into this, and they really think, because everything's within the World of Darkness system, they assume that you can play sort of, oh, I'll play a vampire and my friend will play a werewolf. But the games don't work very well like that. You really need to pick one type of supernatural monster to play. Because werewolves are far and away stronger than pretty much every other creature. Vampires, I guess, are probably second. But they also have some other things, like you can play ghosts, you can play like fairies, you can play like Frankenstein monsters. There's all sorts of fun, interesting stuff. You can play the Beast. The Beast is the one that's like, if you want to play in a group and one person wants to not play the same creature, then you can play a Beast and that works all right together. Has been my experience. Because that's like one that they're sort of working together with. But yeah, Red Tundra looked really interesting. Anytime that there's any sort of thing like this that's just for something new, something different. It's about going back to your hometown as a werewolf, and then there are people hunting wolves, I believe, and you get sort of getting mixed up with that in your hometown. I can just read the back jacket for you. Hunted for sport. You've been away from your hometown for a few years, and it feels good to be back visiting the old stomping grounds with your pack, meeting old friends. But all is not well. The very rich have a new hobby out here in the Canadian wilds, shooting wolves from helicopters. Your Garou, werewolves and sworn protectors of the earth, you must protect your wolf cousins from this cruel sport. Yeah, so very fun. Probably, if you're just fighting dudes with rifles, I don't think the werewolves are going to have a ton of problems dealing with that. Werewolves are very tough, and humans are very not. You shrug off bullet wounds like nothing usually. So, but very interesting. I always like something like this, and this is sort of adventure. Like even if I don't want to run werewolf, I can probably change it up for something like Savage Worlds or something like that, and make a fun adventure out of it, or maybe make a weird side adventure like based off of this, like this adventure coming true, and then people being sent in to investigate why all these hunters died, something like that. So that could be a very interesting sort of take on it. But yeah, always a lot of fun. Oh, who is this actually put out by? Oh, Renegade. It's Renegade. Renegade, where are you? There you go. There we go. That was Red Tundra. They also did the Unnatural Disaster thing. Oh, yeah, I mean, they pretty much, that's the back of the jacket, so. No more information there. So yeah, that's always an interesting one. I like to get some diverse ones up there. I have another really cool one that I could work off of that's I'm pretty sure it's a Savage Worlds setup. Actually, I've got a few different ones that I could work together that all kind of take place in a snowy kind of area, modern day area. One's like a plane crash, I think. Another's sort of like being stuck in a weird small town with like a cult kind of thing, and then that. So I could do like a very sort of Canadian or upper US sort of mystery in the winter, and kind of mesh all those together and make something fun out of it. Even though I think they're all for different systems. I'll figure out a way. I'll probably use Savage Worlds or something like that and kit bash them all together to do something fun. So after that was One Shot Wonders, which I did pick up as well. It's the nice thing about having a friend. So One Shot Wonders, I've heard good stuff about this. I heard good things people had to say while I was in line waiting to get my chance to get my grubby fingers on stuff, talking about it as well. So the book here, this is by Roll and Play. Let's get them up. Roll and Play. So it's a sample set of the One Shot Wonders, which is 100 session ideas. So I was like, oh, that's super cool. So it gives you an idea of basically a number of different things you can sort of pull in. And the way that they're written is they're basically 2-page spreads. So you can basically open up a thing, and this kind of gives you a preview to any page. And that's sort of your whole little adventure. So it's basically, if you need some filler, for a session or something like that, or somebody doesn't show up, or you need something that's going to happen like while you're traveling between villages or something like that, this is a really good one. I think these are all 5e. Or maybe it's not. Maybe these may be 100%. No, uses 5e. Okay. So yeah, there's one-shot ideas. No more than 2 pages. Easy to navigate, text, detailing summary. Let's just pick one. Yeah, and they did a really good job. There's a whole bunch of different stuff in here. You've got like espionage stuff. You've got a weird cooking one. You've got delivering a FedEx quest. You've got well, it looks like a theater kind of actor kind of thing that's going on with one of them. And this one, let's use this one. This one's called Flower Power. It's the first one actually in here. We use Flower Power. So there's our 2-page spread. Super easy. Tells you start the adventure, important characters, quick stats for some different characters if you need them, if you need to pull them. Just kind of tells you their AC, their hit points, their initiative, and sort of their key abilities of what they can do, which is super cool. A very fast way to be able to sort of do monsters or on the flies if you need some stats. Gives you some suggested story elements. Very cool. And quest rewards. Level 1 to 2 adventures, what this is rated for, and then gives you a little tip for how to make it harder, and then a second tip for how to make it even harder. So if you, these are really good for low-level adventurers. If maybe you end up having a party of 3 character or 3rd level characters, or maybe you have a larger party, maybe it's got like 6 PCs in it or something, you can make it a little harder, kind of make it a little bit more difficult to do. Gives you some key locations, some secrets and clues, very Sly Flourish, lazy. Return of the Lazy GM sort of stuff to give out. Yeah, very, very cool. Very straightforward. I don't think this one. What are we actually trying to do here? Let's read our adventure. The druid, Maisie, asks the party to travel to the Lunadu Oasis and take 1 flower petal from the fabled Blue Moon Bloom. She is very clear that the party should only take a single petal, as this will provide enough magic for a year's worth of healing potions, if distilled correctly. If the party pluck the entire flower, all the magic in the plant will be destroyed. As the party leave, Maisie warns them they aren't the only ones seeking the potent plant. Okay. Yeah, so then we have just some quick stats. So they didn't give us actual monster stat blocks, they just kind of gave us some quick stats down here. And then I guess if you could fill in some of those blanks if you needed to as a DM. Sometimes you gotta do that. It kind of gives you 3 key locations, so you're gonna go from the Druid's Den to the Arid Desert to the Lunadu Oasis. It kind of tells you what you're gonna find in there, as well as some flavor text to read aloud. And then those secrets and clues, so every time, you know, you're in between scenes, or the characters start talking to stuff, or they start investigating things, it kind of gives you some ideas, the stuff you can kind of throw out. Like if let's say they're in the arid desert and they're looking around for something, you'd be like, oh, well, the mules stop walking when they become hungry, so it can be easily moved if offered food. So that kind of gives you an idea, like, hey, if you want, like, just a little something that, like, hey, your mules get really stubborn and they won't move, so you need to figure out how to make them move and do some animal handling checks, get advantage if you have food, that sort of things. So very fun. So I don't know too much. It does seem like maybe that'd be a fun thing if you like that sort of stuff. They've got a full one that's got over 100. So a nice book that you can grab that's going to do a lot of that sort of stuff, especially if you want these sort of like fun, off to the side adventures. None of these adventures seem to be particularly combat heavy, or at least these example adventures are, for the most part. So if you're the sort of DM or GM that sometimes struggles with coming up with stuff that's not a fight, or you just want some good stuff to kind of throw in there and maybe you do fights really well and you just want some ideas for stuff that's not fights, maybe something like this is up your alley, I'd say give it a shot. Give it a one-shot wonders. See, that's the name. Okay. All right. What after one-shot wonders? Oh, it was level 1. So I got one of these last year. And last year was the first time I picked up one. Is this 9th level? Yeah. So the same people who did the mazes one, another one that I really like. I think these people really get free RPG Day really well. Ninth level games like understands what it's about. So this is level 1. It's actually not one thing, it's a whole bunch of things. So every year they put out an anthology of like very short independent RPGs, usually with some sort of theme. So this year's theme was sci-fi, so we have a bunch of different sci-fi based RPGs. They're super short. I'm gonna go one. They're usually just a few pages, like here, let's use this one. So this is Spaceship Pets. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 pages. A 4-page RPG. And so yeah, that's sort of what this anthology does. So each year they have sort of a different theme. This year's theme is sci-fi. And they're really great. They give you a good way to look at a whole bunch of different game mechanics very easily. There's basically no art in here. There's some advertisements, there's some QR codes to learn more about stuff. But they do this really cool thing. They talk about, they have a very good smattering of like different types of audiences and tones. So there's stuff in here that's kid friendly, all audiences, 13 plus, mature adults only. They also talk about safety tools and things like that. Really cool. And we see in here, we've got a little ad for that Obojima setting. So here's one. Command line. All audiences, 2 to 6 players. Fun and strange. So they kind of give you an idea of what the game is going to be kind of about. Stopinvasion.exe. So it goes for 3+ people. And so 3+ people and 1 GM. There is a GM symbol. So the command line GM1 is kind of weird. I was looking at command line. So different players swap off being who's the GM in this one. So this is 3+ players, GM, all audiences. And this one is action. Next one is action. Very similar game. Action. Let's see if we can get something that's not fun. So anytime it's fun, it's gonna be kind of wacky, kind of zany. So if you're looking for something fun to just kind of run one off, just maybe you've got somebody who canceled last minute and you just want to fill the time with something fun because everybody's already around the table. These anthology series are super great for that because it's only a few pages. Everybody can pick it up and learn it really quickly. It tells you exactly what materials you need. It's very fun. And then you have someone in here like this one is 13 plus and its tone is serious. Strange. So yeah, if you're looking for just, it's a great way if you're, especially if you're a newer Dungeon Master or Game Master and you're interested in trying to get some more information about different systems or about different mechanics or cool things, learning about things like roll tables and stuff like that. These little anthologies, like little independent RPGs like this, whether it's this one or, you know, Honey Heist, things like that, like 1-page RPGs are super good about, like this. I'm not gonna dig it back out, but mazes again. This exactly right. These guys, like I said, 9th level games get it. So this Return to Dark Tower mazes, Sword of the Brigand King, are really great for that. Where you can be like, oh, so each PC only gets 1 die. That's really cool. And everybody uses a different die, so they're specifically good at some things and not very good at other stuff. Like just different sorts of mechanics that you can, gives you an idea of how to do stuff in your own game and maybe what systems are more fun for you and your players, and that sort of thing. So very cool. Recommend it very much. If you find it, pick it up. If you like sci-fi. If you don't like sci-fi, this one may be a miss for you. I know last year's, I think was like emotion was the sort of theme. So it had some very interesting stuff. Maybe not for every type of group, but if you're the sort of people who like Monster Hearts or more sort of social games like that, this is Volume 5, so that would have been Volume 4. Volume 4 has some good stuff in it, so if you ever find a copy of it floating around in the ether, or you have a friend who's got a collecting dust on their shelf, ask them if you can take it for a spin, borrow it for a little bit. Sins of Grisham Priory. Did not get that one. That was one I was... This is it. The Hollows. So I didn't get this one. It did look interesting. It's pretty high up on my list. So it's the Hollows Quick Start. And this I do believe is available for download. Hollows is a very interesting game. It's sort of a kind of, if you've seen the movie Sucker Punch or Inception, sort of a very similar, where you're sort of diving into somebody's trauma and then fighting the manifestation of sort of that trauma within them. So it's very Souls-like in that aspect, is that there's a lot of symbology in it and things like that. So it looks very nice. It's got a lot of cool art in it. It definitely falls under what I sometimes call an art PG rather than RPG. Mortborg also falls under this, where the layout is more... Presentation means a lot in the layout of these. Let me see if I can... Do they have something for us? But if you're familiar with Mortborg, you're going to know what I'm talking about. When you open it up... I was hoping to get, like, the inside of the book. You show me some of that. But this all seems to be the outside of the book, which is not as helpful. Anyways, all I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of art-forward presentation. So sometimes, I remember looking at, like, one of the bad guys at the show in the Priory, and, like, their stat blocks, so they're, like, the numbers for their stats is, like, arranged around the image in a very sort of artistic way. Like, it looks beautiful, but falls into the same problem that I think a lot of things like the Old World of Darkness books fall into, where those books look beautiful and they're great to sit down and read, but they really struggle to use, or at least I do, and I know a lot of other dungeon masters and game masters do, is they really struggle to use them as a reference, because it's really hard to find information at them at a glance, because everything's kind of hidden around all over the place. Everything's, like, it's more about the presentation than the ability to quickly find and drill down to the information you need to actually run it. So that's why I sometimes call them art PGs, because it's more about sort of the presentation of the art. It's very art-forward sort of thing. Not bad. I did want to check it out. I'm a sucker for a good haunted priory, abbey, that sort of temple. I'm always a sucker for those sorts of adventures, so I'm very interested in it. But yeah, if you're into that sort of, like I said, Sucker Punch or Inception, that idea that you're sort of diving into somebody's mind to battle their mind demons, and this is the sort of thing for you. So yeah, that is the Hollows and the Sins of Grisham Priory. After that is Arzium. There we go. So I didn't get that one. I think we've gone through... Actually, I think we've gone through everything I picked up. So I don't think I have any... Nope, that was all the free stuff I picked up. So now we're just going to go straight through this. So this is one of the ones I want to look at. It's got that same sort of Ghibli kind of aesthetic to it. It's sort of a solar punk, post-apocalyptic. It made me think of... There is a... Gosh, I can't remember the name of that. There's an anime OVA from, like, the early 90s, I think. That's, like, this robot girl who owns a, like, coffee bar cafe at the end of the world, basically, after the post-apocalypse. And it's very... There's a word for it in Japanese, but I don't remember it. It's all about vibes. It's about vibes at the end of the world. So this kind of gives me that same sort of feel about it. So that's something I like and I'm interested in. I'm not sure if I want to play an RPG in it, but I am interested to learn more, and maybe I can pull out some ideas. So the world of Arzium, a vast land filled with mysteries, magic, and forgotten technology, setting of the hit board games Above and Below, Near and Far, and more, which I'm not familiar with. I've never heard of them before. But I am interested to learn more about this. So this is definitely going to be one of the ones I'm probably going to go back in and sort of pick up from the publisher. Let's get this out of here. Get out of here. So yeah, like I said, it's kind of got these weird sort of Ghibli kind of vibes to it. Very sort of fun, light. a little whimsical for me, probably, but I am interested in exploring it to see how it goes. So these are sort of the board games, it looks like. But this is going to be an RPG that's based off of those. So, very interesting. So I'd like to learn more about it. Unfortunately, it wasn't up there. I didn't see a copy of it, so either somebody grabbed them, which maybe it was pretty low down on my list, and it's sort of a new IP as far as I know. So it'd be very interesting if somebody grabbed all of them, or it just wasn't in the tier box of what got sent to our publisher. It's like I said, that just because it's on this list that it's part of the free RPG day doesn't mean that it's going to be what's actually at your friendly local game store. Usually, like I said, they're like tiers and different stuff that you kind of like pick and mix stuff, so you might not get all the same stuff. That is one. The RuneScape Kingdoms. Who put out RuneScape? Forge? Yes. So didn't grab this one either. I saw it, but I know it was there, but I didn't get a chance to grab it for people in front of me. I don't think they had very many of them grab them. Everything you need to know about RuneScape Kingdoms, the role-playing game, in under 10 minutes. So I think this is just a quick start guide. Those usually come with some sort of adventure. Alright, this is it that's on the page. Okay. That's an unfortunate thing to not have working on the free RPG day. Well, maybe it's coming soon. Maybe it's not out yet. I don't know too much about RuneScape Kingdoms, so I was interested to see if maybe I'd like it, check it out, but I didn't get a chance to. And this, unfortunately, these descriptions aren't great most of the time. Really should. I don't know where they pull this information from, but they often don't do a very good job of selling what the thing is to get you excited about it to go and get it. So I don't know exactly about what it was, and can't give you any more information, unfortunately. So probably, like I said, most of the publishers put out their free RPG Day stuff as a free download at some point. So if you are interested in RuneScape, then hopefully that'll be out in the near future. Be able to grab it, hopefully. So after RuneScape, DCC Across the Veil, which is Goodman. So this one, I have some Dungeon Crawl Classic stuff. I have the special edition book up there. Very fun, interesting system. If you're interested in getting into wacky, zany OSR stuff, it's a good one to go to. It comes in one big book that you can use. The spell system is very, very interesting, very wacky. And I feel like this adventure, does a good job of telling you kind of what to expect with the Dungeon Crawl Classics game. Lonely Haberdasher builds a device to turn back the hands of time. He inadvertently unleashes a wave of chronomantic energy that threatens to send the world on a collision course with entropy and the infinite blackness that is the beginning and end of everything. First level adventure. So DCC does a very good job of sort of that wacky, zany, gonzo, old style. Be like, you're just going to be some mooks who have to deal with something that's way beyond your actual kin. So we would never consider throwing a 5e adventure at first level characters where they have to deal with all of time collapsing on them. But Dungeon World Classic's like, yeah, you'll probably be fine, or you'll all die, whatever. Just make new characters. It's not a big deal. That's the kind of game it is. Death tolls are high, especially if you run something like The Funnel. If you don't know what The Funnel is, it's basically where you and all your friends get together and you make, I think it's like 10 level 0 characters. So not even level 1 characters. You're basically making NPCs. And you're in control of, each of you are in control of 10. And then you run through a funnel, which is a killer dungeon, until basically only a few are left, and those become the first level PCs. You level them up to first level PCs. So you don't really know going through the game who's going to make it. And so you do things. You've got some real fun, weird play stuff where you're like, well, I'm going to sacrifice this kind of crappy character on this strat because I want to save this one with the good stats to actually be my level 1 character. And so if you're into that sort of play, then DCC you're going to have a lot of fun with. I didn't pick up this one. I've got some other DCC adventures, and I'm not a huge magic time story kind of guy. It's not my preferred sort of fantasy sci-fi. I find it messy, but other people really like it. So if you like that sort of stuff, if you're interested in those sort of zany gonzo adventures, check this out. They usually put out quite fun adventures, and they're always really weird and off the wall. So definitely go give it a check. Next up is Humblewood. Who does Humblewood? Hit point or Cobalt? Hit point. So Shock and Stormcrag. If you're not familiar with the Humblewood is sort of a setting for 5th edition D&D. It's kind of focused on more anthropomorphic animals and that sort of aspect. So this is a 5e one-shot adventure. Strange creatures, ancient misdeeds. First visit to the magical animal-filled world of Humblewood. So if you like that aspect of D&D, so this will probably be for you. It's going to probably have a lot of fun stuff in it. I think anthropomorphic animals are a little overdone in 5e already without going into the Humblewood setting, which is pretty much all anthropomorphic animals. So this didn't really super appeal to me. That's why it's kind of middle of the road. Even though I'm like, yeah, a one shot is something I could probably strip out of the setting or just run it without a whole bunch of animal characters and drop it into some other setting, something else I was running, and probably do just fine with it. So I'm not going to have a ton to say about some of these later ones because those aren't things that I ended up picking up, so I don't have the physical edition kind of look through. But as usual, this should be probably downloadable at some point from Hit Point Press, so you should be able to get your hands on it. So the Paper App Dungeon. Yeah, here it is. Paper App Dungeon. By Lucky Duck. 4 unique levels for upcoming game Paper App Dungeon, along with a custom P6 pencils for players to experience some fun. Didn't see it. Wasn't able to pick it up. But does look interesting. It's kind of looks like a little roll and write adventure game. So probably not much technically that kind of falls into actually being a true like role-playing game, but some sort of fun roll and write stuff that's kind of like an RPG light or dungeon crawler light that you can kind of do on your own. I was interested in picking this up, but again, this is one of the ones that's sort of like in the middle of the pack for me. It's like if I saw it, I'd pick it up and give it a look through. I didn't see it, so it probably wasn't in their bundle. But it could be interesting. It's not out yet, so I don't know if you're going to have any sort of download. Probably not going to be any downloads for this thing because that's going to be kind of the whole game. That's from Lucky Duck. Looked interesting, just wasn't able to get my hands on it. Magpie? No. The next one I have is Zombie Encounter. No, it's Phone Brain. Lost Home of Monsters free RPG Day adventure. So I didn't come up with this. Again, this doesn't have a very good description. And I didn't see it there anyways. And I figured this is going to be one of the ones that goes very fast because it's got a metal D20 and a unique enamel pin miniature. So they do a very cool thing at Phone Brain. If you don't know anything about them, they have a very cool thing where they have enamel pins and then it has a little hinge on the bottom so you can stand it up as a miniature. So you can wear it as a pin and then take it off and stand it up as a little miniature. They're very cool. So go check it out if you're into those sorts of things, whether as a pin, just as... And they look like this. This is sort of the generic art style. Not generic, but this is the art style that they use. This is kind of got a slightly gross, kind of cartoony, kind of fun kind of thing that they've got going on. So I didn't see that. One of the things that I didn't want to... One of the reasons I wasn't really looking out for it is that it looks like it's just like a one encounter. So it's mainly you're getting the physical stuff. You're getting what they call a pinature, the enamel pin that turns into a miniature, and the metal D20. So those were probably very high value. And then you just get like a paper encounter for it. And I'm like, well, I can make a zombie encounter. That's not that difficult. So what I will tell you is that anything that's... And actually, we can take a break and just talk specifically about this stuff. Anything that's got a very, very physical stuff that comes out on Free RPG Day is usually the first stuff to go. Often, this stuff won't even make it to the the audience. Basically, if some of this stuff comes in, the employees usually take it. Honestly, that's been my experience in most FLGS, is that if there's any sort of like cool dice or something like that, or even miniatures, the employees usually get to sift through the stuff beforehand, and they'll grab anything that's really cool out of it. So I'm gonna guess that's the reason. Probably either they didn't order it, or or their employees took it. There's probably only one in there because that's a pretty expensive thing. So, but there's a number of these, so let's go ahead and talk about them because they're kind of separate from my list. So there's the Icons of the Realm. So they have some Strahd and Wormlings pre-painted miniatures, which would have been really cool. I got one of the Wormlings last year, and so I was like, if they're there, I'll grab it. It's always nice to have an orange one because you can kind of use it for like a flaming sphere or something like that, or a fire elemental in a pinch if you play with a battle mat. And then there's the Strahd one, and I'm like, yeah, it's a dude with a sword. I've got plenty of miniatures that are dudes with swords, so that one's not as important to me. But I don't have a ton of dragon wormlings. I think I may have, including the one I got last year, I think I may have 2. So they don't come up a lot. And especially since D&D like puts them out, I was looking at the pre-painted miniatures while I was at the store, and now they're like $7 a pop. $7 to $10 a pop for a pre-painted piece of plastic is a lot. So yeah, I haven't picked them up. I have a ton of them, and frankly, I just don't use them very often anymore. I used them a ton in 4th edition because you needed to, but in 5th edition, you can do combat much easier, theater of the mind, or with very, very simple sort of combats are a lot faster. Well, faster. And that's subjective. To me, they're a lot faster than the 4th edition ones, where it's like every fight's 45 minutes at least. You can do very quick combats in 5e. Run them and play them very easily, where it's like you would spend more time pulling out the miniatures and sifting through and finding the right number of whatever you were looking for, goblins or whatever, than it's going to take to resolve the combat half the time, if you want to play that way. So that's one of the... But if it was there, I would have grabbed it. And I was just looking at them. Who was it? Not Hit Point. Dispel. This was the one I was actually interested in. That's a very nice looking RPG die. Like I said, any of these that are... Anytime you see any like high quality physical good like that, there's like a 0.0001% chance you're actually going to get your hands on that. Somebody's going to nab that for you before you get there. And it's probably going to be a store employee. Unfortunately. Which is maybe not really the spirit of it, but what are you going to do? But this one looked really nice. It's a very nice die. I would love to get my hands on it, but it is what it is. The other one that I really wanted to get my hands on, that was pretty high on my list, was the Story Engine. I wanted to check this out. I've seen some stuff from it before, and it helps if I click on the thing. So the Story Engine deck helps you come up with the best story ideas and NPCs in seconds. So it kind of gives you these cards that you can kind of turn around and do different things. It kind of gives you an ability to sort of like make NPCs and... Let's do the get started. Let me show you. So, right, you have these cards, and they have like different sides on them. It gives you the ability to sort of like move things around, change things, and kind of gives you story beat ideas. I have a very similar thing that's based off of Tarot deck. I don't think I have it out. I think I have it booked up in my closet because I don't take it. No, I do have it. I have brought it out. A similar, not the same product, not the same company, called Storyforge cards, and these use a tarot deck form factor to do very similar things. And there's a book in there that kind of gives you some different. I don't know what they call them in tarot, like the layouts that you do with the cards, the flips. And so they're a very fun way to sort of like get some ideas. So this is a very similar thing. I like these. I've used them quite a bit. They're really great for coming up with adventures or NPCs or PC motivations and backstories. They're very, very cool. So if you play in the sort of game where you want really deep characters, if that's going to be rewarding for you and your players, I'd say pick up something like this or something like this, like our Story Engine cards here. So I was interested to get my hands on it to learn a little bit more about that system, but I didn't even see it there. So, like I said, any of these physical items, they are the first things to go if they even make it there. So that's the story engine deck. Another thing I was going to get was the... Oh, who puts out the last Avatar? Magpie? Yeah. One of these dice. Because they look cool. It's a cool D6. They're cool colors. They've got the waterbending little fish on them from the show. The Avatar Legends ones. I got their quick start last year. I didn't get it this year because I didn't play the one from last year, so I figured I'd let other people grab it. It looks interesting. This one's set in a different era, so the Avatar game's set in the different eras of Avatar and Korra. So if you're interested in that and you want to do bending stuff, give it a look. So this one's set during the 100-Year War era. It's a little pre. So yeah, I mean, interesting. Again, very unlikely to come across any of that stuff. Where's the treacherous traps? Put that out. More? Yes. RPG accessory deck. So they're cards that give you like monsters, treasures, traps, critical hits, that sort of stuff. So if you're interested in those sorts of supplements, they were apparently around for Free RPG Day. Again, didn't see them, so I can't say one way or the other. They are interesting. I don't super love card decks in general. I think probably the only one of these sorts of like card deck things that I would ever consider purchasing for myself personally would be the NPC face decks. It's nice to just be able to give players a face rather than keep describing NPCs to them. When it's like a random shopkeeper or whatever and they ask like what their name is, like, okay, well their name's this and they look like this. And you just pick one and show it to them. That can give you a good idea. But loot is usually something that I have roll tables for, or I've planned out beforehand in an adventure, so I don't really need that. And that's the same way with traps. I have a roll tables for traps if I haven't planned them out ahead of the time, which they're traps, so usually you do. So those aren't normally things I kind of come up with. And wandering monsters, like coming up with monster things, I don't really like the monster cards written by anybody. Because again, I feel like the game already has enough stuff going on. I also don't want to carry around a huge sleeve of cards for my bad guys and stuff like that. That's not my interest in playing the game. Is more chit, like more hand tactile stuff. It's not bad. I don't dislike it. It's just it's not for me. It's not something that adds a ton for me for the game. Or that I find is more useful than being able to, like, if I want to, like, say if I'm running an out-of-the-pocket adventure for my friends, they go off the rails, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna throw an encounter at them. I roll up a random encounter from a chart that I have, and it says, oh, well, I need I don't know, 7 gnolls. I'm like, all right, well, now I have to bring the whole card sleeve deck with me, or at least or pre-pulled out the cards that I knew that were going to be available for this campaign, so that's already a bunch of extra steps. When it could be like, oh, it's a gnoll encounter, I can literally open the monster manual, flip to the gnolls, or pull out my phone and pull up the gnoll stat block. Like, for me, there's just much simpler solutions that are already easier to use for that. That doesn't involve me carrying around a huge deck sleeve of cards with me that weigh a whole bunch. But to each their own. I can understand liking them. I have had people who use them and do like them. The same way with spell cards. Same issues I have with spell cards. Other people love spell cards. I totally get it. 4th edition, you pretty much play with cards like that. And for that, and the way that game's set up, works perfectly well. For something like 5th edition, I don't really need that. I'd rather have a bunch of spell descriptions on a page. That's my own personal take on it. We have the Legends of Drist, which I think is what ink? No. It's serious. Again, I've never seen any of these dice in the wild, honestly. I've been going to the Free RPG Day for a number of years. I don't think I've ever seen the dice, except for maybe once. I think maybe once I saw the specialty die. But other than that, these are the things that get snapped up usually before they ever get there, or because they're also a physical product, they tend to be in the higher sort of range of things that retailers purchase in their box. So a lot of them don't get these because they're not. They cost a lot, and only one person gets one of them. They're very limited in supplies. It's like, well, I could either get this one set of this Legend of Driss dice set that the first person who walks in is going to grab. We know that. Or I could get, 10 one-shots and quick starts of this other game. Well, I'm probably going to get that because that's going to allow more people to check more things out. Maybe they'll come back for buy things otherwise. There's a very low bar of entry for people buying dice. So it's probably from a retailer perspective, I would assume that it's more likely that you probably sell more dice than $60 RPG books. So it's understanding that maybe you don't want to give the easiest thing you sell away. So I understand that. So you don't see that. This was a weird one. The Roll20 thing was very weird. This was new, at least to me. So complimentary Roll20 subscription plus a curation of adventures, play aids, and maps formatted for the virtual tabletop. I don't even know. I assumed it was a card or something. I didn't see it there. Maybe it's a QR scan code. I don't know how this was being presented for Free RPG Day. So I assume you can probably go to their website and get the same thing. Maybe not. I don't know. This kind of just takes you to the why to subscribe page. Okay. So I don't know if this actually gives you anything except for maybe these little goodies, because you can get a Roll20 account for free. So I'm not sure what's actually in this. A free month of subscription, I guess. Of the premium subscription, I guess. So that's like a $8 or $9 value. So that's cool. I don't pay for Roll20, and people have their own sort of VTT of choice that they like. Some people like Roll20, some people like Foundry, some people like Albert Rodeo, some people like whatever D&D Beyond's new one is. It's kind of coming out, the 2D one at least. So yeah, that was a very weird one. Didn't come across that. And the RPG Day dice trays. I think that's this one. Nope. Get out of here. Yeah. Again, didn't see them. Might have been there, might not. Anything that, again, any physical good's going to be the first thing that's gone. It's a standard sort of snap together dice tray and a nice sizable, looks like dice bag. So that looks like it goes together pretty well. It's got a nice bold coloring. Looks nice. I have dice tray. I have a dice bag. So even if it was there, it wouldn't be something I'd spend one of my item slots picking up if I was in some sort of restriction about what I can and cannot pick up, which is very common because they want to make sure that lots of people have the ability to at least pick up something that interests them on these sorts of free RPG days. So yeah, nothing for me there. That's all the big sort of physical items, I think. Where did we stop? We stopped at the zombie encounter. Shards of the Spellforge. Or Loke. Oh, it's Cobalt Press. I don't know why I didn't put that together. It's Cobalt Press. So this is a 5e. This is another one where so it's really where the descriptions don't do a very good job. So this is supposed to be dive into the quick, easy to run, easy to play adventure and discover the tales of the Valiant RPG for yourself. But on the thing right here, we can see it's 5e compatible. So I don't know. I didn't see it up there either, that I recall. Or no, maybe I did. But I had other stuff higher in the list I wanted to grab. So you're following malfunctioning inventions, so a mysterious machine. So if you like clockwork kind of stuff, or you have an artificer adventure or something like that, that's going to be really good for that probably. But again, the description didn't let me know, like, is this going to be a 5e thing? is this going to be a Tales of the Valiant thing? Because that's going to make probably a big difference on whether I pick it up or not. So if it's just a standalone Clockwork Adventure for 5e, I probably wouldn't pick it up. And I think that's what it was, because this is the front cover, and it's got a big old 5e on it. So I don't think it's really going to have that Tales of the Valiant RPG quick start, which is what I'd be looking for. Is like, again, I kind of want some more noodly mechanic stuff to kind of crunchy stuff to munch on, kind of give me some ideas for other stuff and new looks, and get a better sort of idea of RPGs overall. What new stuff's kind of coming up, and different mechanics and different ways people do stuff. Always very interested in that. Whereas a 5e one shot adventure, I can technically find, and I could probably find a Clockwork Adventure with a mad tinkerer or artificer probably pretty easily. I probably don't need to go very far to find that. Which is very different than like the one that was at the top of my list, right? That Sink, Treasures of the Deep Grotto. That was the one that I was like, oh well, I really want that, because it's really kind of hard to find decent nautical adventures for D&D, D&D themed adventures. But Clockwork ones I feel like are much easier to find. And so don't have much to say about that, but it is Kobold Press, which means it's probably quite good. They put out good stuff, so if you're interested in that sort of thing, that's gonna be a really good one. Ooh, Plague Bear. That was the one I was just looking at. Yeah, Kobold Press's monster manuals have a ton of Clockwork stuff in that. That I do know. So you could definitely break that out and make a whole thing out of it. It could be the whole vibe for a campaign if you wanted to, for sure. But like I said, that's going to be a lot easier to find stuff for, as opposed to Nautical Adventure. There's not a ton of stuff, or if you do find stuff, it's usually got really, really wonky homebrew marine mechanics as far as water and ships and all that stuff is very loosey-goosey. So you're going to have to do a lot of work there. So I like it when I can find that's something that's already somebody at least taking a crack at that work, so I don't have to, do all the heavy lifting by myself, starting from nothing. So Plague Bear, dark fantasy, role-playing. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of information about it. And unfortunately, this one we don't even get a link to their sort of CMON. So, don't know too much about it. So it was kind of low on my list. I'm always interested in those sorts of low fantasy kind of play games, so those are always a lot of fun to me. So this does look like something that would be... It almost got this sort of Vermintide kind of feel to it, looking at the front cover. Gonna have something like that. So it could be very interesting. But unfortunately I don't know anything else about it, and that didn't see it when I was up there. Fate Forged. So this is the second put out by... No, not these guys. Yeah, there we go. So Fate Forge is self-contained RPG powered by an augmented 5e rule set. So you're gonna have to, if you're gonna pull this out for your friends, they do need to know that it's gonna be 5e with some tweaks. So I think this is still in development, right? Looks like it. So, but it's 5e on a very, very epic fantasy scale. So everything's big, it seems like, in here. Sword and sorcery, adventurers travel through grandiose landscapes and interact with exotic, colorful civilizations. So if you're looking for something that kind of breaks out of that medieval European aesthetic that D&D is sometimes kind of stuck in, you want to get out to some different sort of cultural feels, this is a good one. And you want really sort of like a big world, everything's going to be larger than life. It seems really good. I have a friend who runs games that I think would really actually enjoy this, so I'm going to turn them on to it next time I see them, tell them a little bit about it, and see if we're going to get it. One of the bad things that I do think, where they kind of shoot themselves in the foot here a little bit, is that you can see down here at the very bottom, in our description, they gave us the Fate Forged Tetralogy, so 4 books. It's complete and available as a pay-what-you-want on DriveThruRPG. So it's silver best writing any award winner from 2022. Sorry. So, but having sort of like the whole meal, right? Why buy the cow? if you can get the milk for free kind of aspect. That's not something I was looking for in. That's why it's so low down on my list, even though it seems like something I'd be interested in. I don't need to pick up a like one shot or quick start rules. I can go get very economically get all the books for pay what you want through DriveThruRPG and thumb through them and play them if I want to, and see if it's something for me. And then the nice thing about something that's like pay what you want on the DriveThruRPG is that if you can download it for free, take a look at it, and be like, actually, I really like this, and me and my friends have run it, and they can always go back and be like, actually, I'm going to give you guys more money because this is a really great product and we're using it a lot. But it does lower that barrier to entry. If you're like, I want to try out something that's a little bit different from D&D, a little slightly different flavor of 5e, this seems like it'd be a really good option for you guys. If you want to sort of expand it outside of that sort of, like I said, Eurocentric medieval setting, and try out some different stuff and some slight tweaks to 5e, and maybe this is a way to kind of start pushing newer players maybe away from 5e. It's like, hey, look, there's different systems out there that might have some fun stuff that kind of do these things better. We play these different kind of games. This might be a good sort of like dip the toe in the water aspect for new players that have only played like 5e or something like that. Get them sort of thinking about some other stuff that's kind of going on. That's Fate Forge. Like I said, I have a friend gonna turn them onto it next time that I see them. Especially since it's pay what you want. That's a big thumbs up from me. So now it's Rojo. There it is. A Kurosawa-inspired bloodshed game. So it's based off of Yojimbo. I didn't see it when I was up there at the store. So it's a one-shot scenario for the Terror Target Gemini RPG. That's a very long name that doesn't tell me really anything about what the RPG's about, which is maybe not great. So, but if you're familiar with Kurosawa and the sort of samurai flicks, then that's sort of classic cinema. And Yojimbo, it's about a stranger that comes into town and kind of gets stuck in between like two sort of fighting factions. It's like, imagine if you were a character that kind of got thrown into the middle of something like Romeo and Juliet, in between the Capulets and the Montagues' house, and you were kind of like playing both sides. That's kind of what Yojimbo's about. Very similar. So this has got a lot of stuff going on. A hyper-violent, anachronistic western, colorful and wacky fantasy, action-packed manga full of demonic gunslingers and martial arts witches. So if you enjoy that kung fu hustle kind of feel, this is probably going to be more within your wheelhouse. It seems like it's got some wacky stuff going on, but which is maybe kind of hard to rectify with something like Kurosawa's works, who are cinematic works, which are a little bit more, they're hyper violent for sure, but also sort of very serious in their own kind of way. So I'm not sure how you push together these wacky and serious things. It may be something that's maybe a little bit closer to maybe like a Detective D. And if you're not familiar with that series, it's about a Chinese detective in sort of feudal China. Very interesting series. They got a number of movies. Go check them out. They're actually quite good. So if you kind of want to imagine sort of a medieval's probably not the right word, but I don't think it's romance era. Sort of Chinese Sherlock Holmes kind of vibe, then go check out Detective D. A lot of fun. So yeah, I don't really know too much to make about Rojo. So I don't know too much about it. And let's see the art, because I didn't look at the publisher site beforehand. Now I do know. Oh yes, I did. I did look at it because it's in Italian. That's what I remember. It's an Italian website. And so it looks like they do reprints for things like, for a number of different things, particularly in Italian. But it looks like they do Legends of the Five Rings, One Ring. So I've got some interesting stuff, but I am always worried about it. Salvage Union, stuff like that. So there's a lot of translation being done here. So I'm going to guess that, I don't know if Rojo's their own thing or not. So I don't know where to fall on it, and unfortunately couldn't get my hands on it. I wanted to get my hands on this just to look at it, to kind of figure it out a little bit more. Because unfortunately, a black cover doesn't really give me any information, and that Kurosawa plus demonic gunslingers and martial arts witches do not feel like they belong in sort of like the same game. So I was going to be interested to just kind of flip through it and see what it was. Probably not to pick up for myself, but it could be fun. But unfortunately, I don't have any information to base that off of, unfortunately. And then after that, down on my list was the Avatar. It kind of talked about the Rebels and Refugees already. It was there. I did not pick it up because I have the previous one they have, and I haven't had a chance to play it. So I didn't pick up the new one. Let somebody else get a shot at it. I know there was a father talking to his young son who's interested in Avatar, and they were taking a look at the quick start and stuff like that. So I was like, I know there are a lot of fans of the Avatar series. I want to make sure they have the ability to get that stuff if that's going to be their, especially if that's going to be their sort of entry point for the hobby. Let them have that from an existing IP. And I know I clicked on this a lot. There it is. Garbage and Glory, Trash Run. Do you want to play raccoons? This is the raccoon game for you. So I think this is very Honey Heist-esque, but instead of playing bears, you're playing raccoons, trash pandas. Heck Good Doggos. Ooh, I don't know anything about Never Going Home. That seems like something that's more up my alley. There's a lot of Never Going Home. Jingxi. Wild Skies. World War II dogs, I guess. Interesting. Tenebrae. Alright, unfortunately they don't give us any information about the game on the page, it looks like. So, we can only go off of what's on here. Like I said, it's a simplified rule set. I feel like it's probably got a little bit more going on than Honey Heist has going on. Honey Heist is a one-page RPG that I think you can download for free from itch.io. You may have to pay $1 for it. Maybe. So don't quote me on that. But if you're interested in super light, kind of silly RPGs where you do things like play as woodland creatures, this is for you. I'd say probably go try out Honey Heist first, unless you can get this for free. If you find this, out in the wild on Free RPG Day, grab this. But if not, go try out Honey Heist and see if that's your vibe. You can also watch, plenty of actual plays have done it. I know for sure Critical Role has. I know No Rolls Barred has done them. I'm sure a number of others have done Honey Heist Adventure. So if you want to see an idea of what a system like that looks like, it's a super simple system. So go check those out. But we don't have any more information. I do like raccoons, but I don't know if I want to play an RPG as a raccoon. Everybody plays a raccoon. I'm not sure if I'm into that. Maybe. I'm gonna try it. Keep clicking on the wrong thing. There we go. So this was the Shadow Scar I looked at. This doesn't look like it's really kind of up my alley. This is a modern fantasy fighting yokai kind of game. So if that sounds interesting to you, where you're running around with guns and Shinto magic and things like that, fighting yokai, then this is probably for you. So join the Shadow Scar Agency and fight the Veil War across the mosaic against enemies inspired by Japanese mythology. So these are the people that made the Witcher RPG. Sorry. I thought it was the other people. It's these people. So, I don't know. I don't know too much more about them as a publisher. And they're not going to give me a ton of information right off the bat. Got a bunch of Cyberpunk. Are they the people who put out Cyberpunk Red? I guess so. And the Witcher Easy mode. That's fun. It's very funny. Alright, so they've got Cyberpunk, The Witcher, Mekton. Oh, Castle Falconseen. I don't know anything about Mekton. Towering humanoid from toppling skyscrapers. Oh, big mechs. Okay, big mech combat. Gotcha. Teenagers from outer space. Okay, zany anime. I'm losing the name of the show. Urusei, the magical alien girl, kind of jumped off sort of the harem. That and Ranma kind of jumped off the harem anime revolution, I guess. And Cyber Generation. Let's see what this last one is. Fast gun techno heroes with cyber fists. Okay. Very, very, very classic 80s cyberpunk stuff going on. So interesting, but unfortunately doesn't give us a lot of information about what we're kind of dealing with. But if you're interested in that sort of modern setting, fighting sort of mystical monsters, but maybe you don't want it as grim and difficult as something like the Hunters that we talked about in World of Darkness Hunters, then this might be something that's more up your alley. Unfortunately, I can't tell you anything about the TTRPG mechanics or anything about that. Don't know anything about it. Alright, now we're getting down into Paizo stuff. I don't think I... No, I've got both the Paizo stuff right next to each other, so we can talk about it. So I put Starfinder Second Contact first. That would be one of the things that was there. I did see it, did not pick it up. So this is sort of a... It's just sort of like a list of bestiary preview for the second edition of Starfinder, which they're still working on. The playtest isn't even out for yet, so I was like, why would I pick up monsters I can't use yet? So it's kind of an interesting thing for me, and that seems to be just what it is. A dozen iconic creatures fully compatible with the upcoming playtest. And your existing Pathfinder role-playing game campaigns. Okay, but not my Starfinder campaigns. Interesting. So that tells me that the new Starfinder is probably going to be a lot like the second edition of Pathfinder. Which is unfortunate for me. I actually really like the original Starfinder system. And I felt let down because that's what I was hoping the second edition of Pathfinder was going to be more like, personally. And then it kind of went in the direction it did go, which to me is... I know my friends and I talked about when we learned that they were going to be doing the playtesting, or they knew that when they announced, I think, the Pathfinder 2nd Edition, my friend was like, oh, I'd really love an RPG where you basically, it's just a collection of feats and you slot in feats, and that's, to me, that's very much what Pathfinder 2E feels like. And I think we were all on board to be like, yeah, that sounds really cool. Like, talk about wild customization. And 2nd Edition Pathfinder has a ton of customization. The problem for me became that it didn't, for me, the characters didn't feel like more than the sum of its parts. I felt like I was just playing a character sheet that was just a big list of feats. I haven't played a ton of Pathfinder 2nd Edition, but the stuff that I did play, that is how I felt. And I felt like everything was very much sort of optimized for it. It was very clear in very specific situations what the best thing was to do. And if you deviated from that, there was a much lower likelihood that you were going to be successful without sort of the DM doing some gymnastics to help you out. But as written, as sort of coded by the rules, you really need to do the things you're good at doing every single time. And I know that's what caused a lot of people to sort of... That's sort of been the major critique I've heard of other people talking about Pathfinder 2nd Edition. People who have bounced off of it had very similar feelings. Whereas, like, I felt where they had the same feeling I did. Where it's like, well, there's like 5 things I can do on my turn, and they're basically in a list. So in optimal play, like, do this thing. If I can't do this thing, do this thing. If I can't do this thing, do this thing. If I can't do this thing, do this thing. Can't do this thing, then I guess I do this thing on my turn. And then don't really find a lot of deviation from that. Your experience might be different, but that is my experience, and I know that has been other people's experience with the game. And so to see Starfinder heading in that direction doesn't give me a lot of incentive for me to feel like I should probably check out the 2nd edition of Starfinder, because I think I'll probably bounce off of it. And then under that, I had the Pathfinder one. This is a toy heist. It looks like it's a straight up one-shot for Pathfinder 2nd Edition in a terrific toy shop. This is for me, I felt like a very extremely niche one-shot to sort of put out. It's like, I don't know how many games you're going to be, like, existing ongoing games of Pathfinder that you can throw in an adventure that's going to make sense, that's about playing toys, where you take on the role of one of 4 unique puppets, living toys with strong wills of their own. like that is, you have built, I feel like, your own standalone one shot. So I guess maybe if you want people to try second edition for the first time, let's do it. But at the same time, that doesn't feel a good introduction to what Pathfinder second edition is about, because it's whole zany action figures fighting each other, and then you get to Pathfinder, it's like, no, it's pretty much just kind of generic kitchen sink fantasy. You're like, oh, well, that's not what I thought the game was going to be. So I don't think it works very well as like an introduction to the game itself, as to what to expect from Pathfinder 2nd Edition, as well as not being a very useful one-shot that you could drop into an existing campaign. So it seems like a real kind of missed opportunity for me. I think Paizo kind of fumbled the ball this year on what they put out for both of these, for Starfinder and Pathfinder. It's like, cool, I can have 12 new monsters that I can use in my Pathfinder game, even though they're clearly going to be Starfinder, like, sci-fi flavored. Or I can get this very, very niche one-shot. Neither of those do anything for me. And so, and, you know, they were both there when I was walking out. So, I don't know if that means other people weren't interested in them or not. Now we're like the very bottom of the bargain, so bottom of the list. So this is the last things that I sort of were looking through. So, Marvel X-Men. I have played the old Marvel RPG from like I think it's 80s or early 90s. So I don't know about the new multiverse role-playing game. I am not, I'll be the first to admit, I'm not a big comic book person. Never have been. I can probably count on one hand the number of comic books I have owned in my life. It was just not something that grabbed me as a kid. I preferred reading larger books and imagining that than... Look, I can tell you about my personal experience with comic books is that I never felt like I got... As something... Things like that were things that I had to spend my own money on as a kid. They didn't usually get bought for me. So, to spend my limited sort of money on a comic book that I was going to get like 10 minutes of entertainment out of didn't... Even though they weren't particularly expensive, and they're still not particularly expensive, didn't like do anything for me. It's like I can't reread the same issue of a comic book again and again and again. So that means that I need to buy like the entire line of comic books to make it sort of worthwhile. It's like, and then the cost builds up. It's the same sort of thing that keeps me out of reading things like manga series, other than just shelf space to put all those manga volumes on. Is that I can read a manga volume in what, like somewhere between 10 to 30 minutes, and they cost like $10 a pop. It's like, but I could use that money to go see a movie that's longer. I know that time and entertainment does not equal entertainment value necessarily. But for me, it's just like, it feels too disposable for what I pay for it. Even sometimes secondhand. And again, I also don't want to take up an entire bookshelf for one series of manga. But that's just for me. So that's my sort of perspective coming into things like Marvel's universe. So nothing about being a mutant really kind of jumps out to me. Playing a superhero is not something I'm particularly personally interested in playing. I've played in some superhero games. They're fun. They can be fun. For me, it's all about, because I'm not super interested in the source material, it's more about sort of the people I'm playing with. So I'm super happy to play it. I'm probably never going to run it, because I don't have the background knowledge that's needed to run something with such a massive existing IP as something like Marvel. But I'd play in it if I had a group of friends who were interested in playing it. I'd be like, yeah, sure, I'll play with you. Like, I'm not going to be sticking mud and be like, I'm not going to play that. I do not like comic books. You sad little man. No, I'll definitely play it. It's just not something that, when I see it, I'm like, whoa! It just doesn't do that for me. So, did not interest me. Also, didn't see it. So, I didn't have a chance to even look at it. Oh, and our last one, which is way down at the bottom. Renegade, right? Yeah. So, they put out the werewolf one, which is really cool. But they also put out this thing. The unnatural disasters. Hasbro keeps trying to make this a thing. I'm not really sure why. It's just a Hasbro IP nostalgia vomit, like cash grab RPG to me. Like, hey, do you remember G.I. Joes and Transformers and Power Rangers and My Little Pony? Well, now you can play them all together in one cinematic universe. It's Saturday morning cartoons, the RPG. Oh, okay. What do, these are all have very different storylines and different scales of adventure. Like, I don't know how you put these four things together and make that cohesive. So yeah, and like I said, I think this is very much a Hasbro cash grab RPG. I think this is there's sometimes so let me step back and talk about sort of publishing in general. Generally from a book perspective, but I think it also works for RPGs in this setting. So when fiction books are written, they kind of go one of two ways. Either there is an author who writes a book and then reaches out to publishers and tries to get their book published. That's the way we usually think about fiction being published. But that's not the only way that things get published. There's also publishers that want a specific type of book, and then basically they pay writers to write that book. Sometimes it's one writer, sometimes it's like a team of writers, and they each write different parts of it. And I feel like this is that kind of RPG. Like this was not somebody's. I don't think this was somebody's heartbreaker. This isn't something that somebody loved and nurtured as an idea. I think this was Hasbro going like, "Hey, we have these people who know how to do RPGs, and we have these IPs that don't have any RPGs. So let's make RPGs for these IPs so we can sell them." And I think this is the result of that. This is what you get. I know that there are a bunch. Unfortunately, there are a bunch of these books, like the core books and supplements for them in my friendly local game store, and I don't feel like I've ever seen anybody actually look at them. Now, that's not saying that people don't and that people don't enjoy it. I'm sure somebody does. I've just never come across them, and I don't know who it would be for. Because it's such a mishmash, and I feel like it feels very much like a product to me. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of soul in it, that like a lot of stuff that's cooking under the surface with it. This isn't somebody's passion project. This isn't something that love. Whereas I look at something like the other example right above it, and I'm like, oh, this seems like fun. Whereas this one, let's just read the synopsis. An earthquake rips a hole in the center of a downtown district, and it's up to the heroes to minimize the damage. However, as they rescue innocents, stabilize structures, and manage the panic, something becomes clear. This was not a natural disaster. Okay, that's an alright lid in, but it doesn't really tell me anything. Like I don't know what kind of adventure this is going to be. Is it going to be a big fight? Because the front end doesn't seem like it's going to be a fight. It's going to be like more of an exploration, skill challenge kind of thing. And then there's going to be a fight, but what is it? Which universe is it going to be from? Is this going to be a Power Rangers threat? Is this going to be a Cobra thing? Is it going to be Megatron or something like that? Or, I'm actually not familiar enough with My Little Pony to know who might be acting as a straightforward antagonist for that, if anybody. Or why My Little Pony's in a world of otherwise straight up humanoids. So, like I said, it's just a weird collection for me. It feels very much like a product to me. So I'm very much not interested in it, unfortunately. Uh, and I don't think I saw it. I don't think I saw it, which either means like somebody really wanted it and they grabbed all of them. But considering my that same store also has a number of these books in there that have been on those shelves, I know for a while. Unless people keep buying them and they keep restocking them, but I don't think that's the case. It would be my educated guess that that is not the case. I don't know if this is like a Hasbro push. I don't really know too much about the publisher. Yeah, so these are all Hasbro. This is all Hasbro stuff. Heroescape, Axis and Allies. Vampire Rivals. It's a vampire card game. Okay. That must be licensed by them. I guess I have all vampire now. Interesting. But yeah, so I don't know too much about it. It kind of talks about cons and stuff like this. I wonder if this is a spin-off shell. I don't of Hasbro, like their own sort of little publishing arm. I don't know anything about Renegade. Yeah, let's look at your game worlds. Ooh, Alice is Missing, which is actually supposed to be quite good. It is a. If you don't know anything about Alice is Missing, Alice is Missing is a tabletop RPG that you guys all play with cell phones because you all play messaging each other back and forth about Alice being missing. So very interesting. That seems like a red flag to me when they're like popular brands. Interesting. Many of these I haven't heard of. But they have Gets on Bikes, which is fun. I don't know. I don't know too much about Renegade. I don't know what their affiliation is with Hasbro. I suspect it may be just larger than a normal IP holder and publisher's relationship, but I'm not sure. But yeah, this was dead last on my list. This was the one thing that I was like, even if it was there, even if somebody tried to give it to me, I would probably not take it. Or even would know anybody in any of my gaming groups that would be interested in it. Though, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe one of my friends does like it. I just don't know who it is. But yeah, that was everything from Free RPG Day. Now that's all the free stuff. I did buy some things while I was there. It's a good opportunity, if for me, it's like if the game store is going to go through the effort of hosting Free RPG Day, I know they're putting in money, and they don't get anything out of the actual thing itself. They pay money, they get all this stuff, and then they give it away. So this is the one time, well, not the one time, but this is definitely a time where I show up at the game store and be like, hey, I'm getting stuff. I'm getting value right out the gate. They don't. And my FLGS I went to today didn't ask for like, hey, there weren't any limits on stuff, which is probably why some of this stuff was gone. I think some people just grabbed armfuls of stuff and walked off. Don't be that guy, number one. Number two, I'm already getting value out. I'm already here. I want to support you guys. I want you guys to stay open so we have a place to play and place to check out RPG stuff and all this stuff. So that is a time where I kind of look to spend a little bit of money. I didn't go crazy. I only got 3 things. The first thing I got was Into the Dungeon. So this is a sort of like choose your own path book, which I thought was very interesting. So it's sort of a choose your own adventure little book. Seemed like it was fun. You've got some character sheets in it, so it's a little bit more, right? You've got some stats and stuff, so it's sort of right in between sort of like a fully cooked solo RPG and a choose your own adventure series. I think there's a series of these sorts of things. I think it's called Lone Wolf, maybe? That is a series of adventures like this. There are some others that are out there that are kind of choose your own adventure books with a little bit of mechanics to them, which is really nice. So if you know somebody who's maybe interested in RPGs and you want to get them a kind of a cool gift, something like this would be nice. This is $13. Pretty nice. This little choose your own adventure. It's got art in it, right? It's not just a basic choose your own book. Choose your own adventure book. Basically every page has art on it. This one has a weird little grandpa, me, and dad looks like little bat people child's drawing in it, which is fun. So all sorts of cool, nifty little stuff in here. And of course, these things, because of their nature, have some limited replayability with them at least. And like I said, there are a number of these that are sort of... They even have this. They have achievement bingo in the back. So you get to play some bingo. Get 4 in a row. In the least number of playthroughs for the ultimate completionist dungeon veteran. Collect them all. Take money from a skeleton. Character didn't make it. Give monster wine. Return the necklace to its rightful owners. Make it out with 1 remaining hit point. Avoid a trap. All sorts of fun stuff. So some limited replayability. Again, there are a few different, and I can't think of them off the top of my head. There are a few different publishers that put out like serials of these, where you have like a number of different adventure books. I know there's one system that I can't think of off the top of my head that I think has like 6 or 7 different books, and you can play them in any order, and you can use the same character through all of them, and depending on what order you play them, like there are very specific interactions that you can have, like unique interactions between the books, which is really cool. And I wish I knew what it was off the top of my head, but I haven't played it and I don't own them. I just remember seeing somebody else talk about them and being like, "Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun." So if you have somebody who maybe likes RPGs and maybe you think they could be interested into something like a solo RPG, this could be something that could be very interesting for them, or somebody who likes fantasy kind of stuff and you think that they might be interested in RPGs, but maybe they kind of are like, oh, you know, they're kind of wishy-washy about it. Maybe get them something like this to see that'll really test their interest. So that's the first thing I bought. The second thing I bought, even though I have the PDF for it, is Fate, the core. $25. Pretty simple. If you've never played Fate, Fate is a very universal RPG system. There's a number of different flavors of it. This is the core one. This is kind of the big one. Most of my previous experience with Fate has been through Accelerated. So there's Fate Core, Fate Accelerated, and Fate Condensed. There's like 3 different flavors of it, depending on how much sort of mechanics you want in the game. So this is the most mechanical bound ones. And even that, like, it's not a very big book. And it's a universal system, so it allows you to play whatever you want, so it's really good. Like, if I wanted to take that Red Tundra one-shot, and I didn't want to run Werewolf, I could probably figure out a way to run it with Fate pretty easily. And I could run that one-shot, and then combine it, like I said, with the airplane crash one that I have, and the sort of small-town horror one, cult one. I can mash all of those together, and we can play them probably with the same characters using this Fate core. Without too much noodling around. So Fate's really cool. Pretty much the only downside that I've had with Fate, and I haven't done, like I said, I don't have a ton of experience with Fate Core, but the one thing that I did have issues with Fate Accelerated that I think I may have with the Fate Core system is that there's not a lot of tenure as far as character progression. There's you might call very few levels in which characters will get extremely powerful very quickly. So I know that can be an issue. So if you're wanting to run like a long form campaign where you're thinking about like a level 1 to 20 D&D style campaign, you either have to make sure that they don't level up very often. The players don't level up very often. Or else, because if you do let them level up in sort of like as fast as you would in something like D&D, especially in the early levels, they are going to be super powerful very quickly, and they're going to be way overpowered for probably most of the challenges of the campaign. But that can also have a backside with slowing down stuff. Players like to level up. So, and specific players like to level up more than other players. Some players don't care that much about it. I tend to kind of be in that sort of realm where I don't care that much about level up most of the time. But other characters really, like, especially if they're more the sort of power gamery side, they're always kind of looking for that next bump. And one of the things that's really cool in this is the aspect system. So aspect system is basically you set a scene. Typically, I think they have you do it with index cards, so that's one of the things they ask you to bring to the games, is an index card. So let's say that you're having a combat breaks out in a library. You broke into the library after hours because you're looking up some esoteric knowledge, very sort of Call of Cthulhu kind of style. And there's cultists that also break in, and you guys get into a firefight in this library. Well, then you throw out some index cards, and these are aspects of, like, the library. So you can have one that's like library shelves, one that's like chandelier, one that's like, I don't know, the alarm system, or something like that. And then players and bad guys are able to basically what they call invoke the aspects. So you could be like, well, I want to invoke the aspect of the chandelier because I want to swing across the chandelier, like across the sort of mezzanine from where I am, across sort of like the first floor to the railing on the other side, the mezzanine on the other side of the room, and tackle one of the cultists. Okay, cool, yeah, and you use that and you invoke the aspect, and that usually gives you a bonus to your roll, and so it kind of gives you that sort of cinematic thing where if you put things into the scene, there's a mechanical benefit for the players and the bad guys of using those things in the scene. If you want to do the shelves, you could be like, you can invoke a fire, and then you can invoke the bookshelves, be like, the bookshelves are now on fire, and now those threaten the people as well. So it's got a lot of cool stuff like that. So if you're interested in sort of encounter building and using those sorts of things, those are really cool. It's a really cool thing to use out of Fate, which can really add things up. And then the last little thing I got, hold on, I haven't even unboxed them yet. I'm usually not a tchotchke kind of person, but I bought a tchotchke. It was on clearance, so I figured, why not? And it's one of my favorite. I bought this little vinyl roper. It's one of my favorite iconic D&D monsters. Just a squiggly little stalagmite guy with tentacles. This sort of implementation, cartoonish implementation they did, almost has sort of like a Futurama kind of look to it, which I really enjoy. But that's the last thing I got. He was on sale, very cheap, so I figured I'd pick him up. But yeah, that's a free RPG day. Definitely, it may be a little bit late now, but you can always go to freerpgday.com. You can go up here, and where is it? You may have to go to for gamers, and you just type in your city, and they're gonna find you something. So let's say you're in Los Angeles. So you can be like, oh, well, here. We're going to Tweety Cards and Gaming. There you go. Simple as that. Then you can get their website, you can get their directions, all the super stuff. Easily find out what you're looking for, and go check out your friendly local game store. See if you can make some friends. See if maybe you can get yourself a new game going. This is something I've actually wanted for a while. I also need to unbox it. Well, I can show it to you in the box first. I've wanted to get for a while, and I just hadn't really kind of pulled the trigger on it, is this guy. This is a D12 hit location die. So it's a good way if you are coming up with like injuries or where somebody gets hit with a weapon or a spell or something like that. Oh, there's a little plastic thing in here. You just roll the D12 and it gives you a different body part. So, yeah. You just roll it. Alright, you got hit in the left thigh. Midsection, right in the torso. That's a fun one I've wanted for a while. I was looking for some others, I didn't see them. But I didn't want to spend too much. There was a bunch of people in there for Free RPG Day, and they were doing some sort of Warhammer event. So it was very busy in the store. So I also wanted to look for... there's some emotion dice, NPC emotion dice that I thought would be really cool, but I wasn't able to find some of them. So I may have to order those online at some point. Or maybe some weather dice or something. Some of those weird little specialty dice. But, yeah, that was Free RPG Day. It's always a lot of fun. It's kind of a floating day, so you'll have to check it out. You kind of have to check it each year to see what specific day it's going to be on. But it's always on a Saturday. It's pretty much, I think it's always in June. So you can go and find your own local game store to check it out, or just ask your game store if they're participating in it. There's so many people who don't know about this, so tell your friends. Especially if you have friends who are interested in getting into the RPG hobby, but maybe it's money or something that's keeping them out. Free RPG Day is a good way to get one of these sort of like one-shots with a quick start rules. So even if it's not D&D, you know, they can get something and play it really quick. They can sit down and play a game of it in an evening and be like, oh, this is something I'm enjoying and I want more of. Or be like, nope, this, you know, tabletop RPG is definitely not for me. But at least you'll know one way or the other. But that's going to be everything for me today, guys. We're going to hit it back next time with the solo RPG stream. But thanks for coming along, guys. Always fun. Make sure to share whatever. If you went to Free RPG Days, tell me what you got. Always fun and interesting to hear like what people like about what people are drawn to, what people don't like, and the reasoning for that is always a lot of fun for me to learn about. So make sure to let me know that. You can do that either on Twitter or in the comments here. And I'll reply as I can. That's gonna be it for me. I'll see you guys in the next video. So, bye.